Alright guys, time to take a look at some of the items that sold over the last 3 or 4 weeks. My last two videos I showed you a few items that I had collected that I thought might be worth something, and we talked a little bit about the auction. I thought it would be fun for you to see some of the spoils, so to speak. And I want to preface this by saying that a lot of the items you're going to see here are some of my top dollar amount sales of all time. I had an awesome last couple weeks, and some of that is because I spent a lot of money at the auction. So I got some really nice stuff, but this is not typical. So I don't want you guys to go home and be like, I could be a postcard dealer. I mean, hey, go ahead if you want to, but a lot of the cards I sell are $4, $5, $6, $7 cards. This is not the norm. However, I want to show you some of these because there's some pretty great sales here. So a bunch of these are from this album that I bought at the auction in Ohio. It was a New Jersey album of this area of the New Jersey coast, and there's some really, really great stuff from this. I had a major bidding war breakout between several different buyers over a number of these cards. One buyer actually ended up spending well over $1,000 on cards, which was incredible. So thank you to that person. So this is just a drugstore in Highlands, New Jersey, getting ready for Carnival Week. You can kind of see they've got some bunting up and stuff like that. Here's another one. The auto races at the Carnival Week. So some car racing that's going to happen there. And you can see this one went for $41, which was pretty amazing. There's another one from Seabright, New Jersey, which is in the same area. The prize winner at the baby parade. So this is kind of an interesting one. You can see there's actually this baby that apparently has won some prize of being, I don't know, the best baby or something like that. So they get to be in this big baby parade. One of the things that's kind of interesting to note here is you can kind of see that the print quality on this card is not that great. This was actually kind of typical in this time period when cards were printed in the United States. So it used to be in the early 1900s, cards were mostly printed in Germany. They had the best lithographic printing technology. But once World War I broke out, that really kind of screwed that up, and a lot of these started being printed in America. And I think this card is actually the first decade of the 1900s, but for whatever reason it's an American card. And actually, my suspicions were proved true when I went to the back of this card, and you can actually see it says printed in the United States. So we just didn't have as good of printing technology, apparently. Here's a card that's from the lot that I bought at the auction in Pennsylvania, where I bought a lot of Finger Lakes, New York cards. And this one is actually of Jasper, New York. Nice street scene here. You can see the old horse and buggy. The street isn't paved. And in the background you can kind of see some signs and some other kind of cool stuff. So I got a couple from Jasper. I might try to list a couple more because I don't think it's a very common card. John Deere sign right there, which is kind of nice. So that sold for $15. This one I don't actually remember where I got, but I thought it was kind of an interesting one. It's a ferry boat on the Miami River to go to Moosa Isle, where there are a lot of Native American groups there, and there was like a show where a guy put his head in an alligator's mouth, and it was kind of like an entertaining place for a lot of people to go on little vacations. But this is the Makusha, a ship that apparently sailed there. You can actually see this one's not in super great condition. There's some corner issues and stuff like that, but still sold for $15. This was a nice find. I'm not actually sure where I got this one either, but Temple, Texas, a nice downtown street scene there. And you can see there's a trolley, a streetcar, and like a drugstore and some other stuff there. But I looked this up and it looked like Temple, Texas frequently sold for about $30, so that's what I listed it at. So this is an interesting card. Daily scene from Hotel Four Gables in Edison Beach, Port Huron, Michigan. And you can see there's some nice people swimming here, but there's also some big ships in the background. Who knows what the industrial situation was here. I don't know if this was necessarily a prime swimming spot for people from an environmental standpoint, but I doubt they were really thinking about that back in, 1913. So here we have just actually a snapshot photo. It's about the same size as a postcard, but I picked this one up at, I think, maybe an antique mall somewhere for like $1 or $2. And what caught my eye was just that there's a man and a woman there. You don't normally see women kind of in that time period involved in industrial kind of stuff. But I like that it had the name of the contractor on the side and the location of the truck. A lot of times you find these photos and there's not really any identifying markers, so it might be kind of a cool logging truck photo, but unless you have the location, you really lose a lot of the value. So you know, this might have been a $1 or $2 photo, but because it had Sioux, Michigan on it, I managed to get $20 for it. And I did have this one listed for quite a while, actually, before I sold it. This was one of the real winners. So, this is actually a postcard of Seabright, New Jersey, again, from that same album. Some storm damage from a big storm that came through there. And I think this is 1914. I think the storm hit in the winter of 1913 or maybe early 1914. And right around Christmas time. And you could see just the devastation here. There's houses kind of piled up on the shoreline. And this is an interesting photo too, because you can actually see that it's really kind of out of focus. People were moving around, and again, it kind of shows that some of the photography during this time period, the shutter speed was not as quick, and if people were moving or there was a lot of action, you would sometimes lose a little bit of the crispness on the photo. This one actually has a stamped, kind of embossed stamp of the photographer down here at the bottom from Red Bank, New Jersey, which is right near Seabright. That was a nice one for $120, which was definitely in probably my top 10. This is another one from that same lot, Rumson, New Jersey, Shrewsbury River. This is a steamer, and I had a whole bunch of different steamship cards from that lot, and some of them didn't seem to go for as much, so I don't really know why this specific one was rare. I did have one of the buyers tell me that he'd been collecting for 30 years from this area, and I had a bunch of cards that he had never seen before, so that was just kind of pure luck. But again, you can see this one had 13 bids, so major bidding war here, and it ended up being very lucrative for me. This was actually from a lot that I got at an estate sale. It was the one mostly travel memorabilia from this couple that had been running a travel agency, but a lot of hotels and other groups would send them stuff. And one of the things that they got was this tropical drinks menu from Hawaiian Isle Hotel in Miami Beach, Florida. And tiki stuff, I think I mentioned this in a previous video, tiki stuff does really well. So I bet we'd all love to get major, huge tropical drinks for $1.50. That sounds pretty nice. But this is kind of cool. On the inside, it had, like a little graphic and some prices on things like that. So I listed this. It didn't sell the first time I listed it, so I listed it as a buy it now for $80, and it eventually sold. This was the best one of the postcards, and again, a steamship, Thomas Patton in Seabright, New Jersey. The scan actually kind of washed out the photo. It actually was a better quality photo, but my scanner was being kind of cranky. But you can see there's a little bit of damage here. It's not in perfect condition. In fact, on the back there was some additional damage from being in an album. Most of the time, collectors don't care too much about the back of the card as much as they do the front and the image. But again, this sold for $153.61, 17 bids. And I was actually playing poker with my friend up in Detroit. I was hanging out with him for the weekend, and I'm sitting there playing poker, and my phone is just buzzing and going off, and I'm not really paying attention. And I finally go to look, and I'm just stunned when I see some of the prices that these things are selling for. Here's one that I got, I think, maybe just at an antique mall, or maybe at my postcard club meeting. Bird's eye view of Smithfield, West Virginia. And I don't think I paid very much more than maybe $1 for this. It was sitting around for a while. I had a couple people message me trying to get offers, but I knew it was kind of I just didn't see this image anywhere else. And so I left it there, and finally it did sell for $15 as a buy it now. I actually featured this one in my last video. This is one of the ones that I got at the auction in Pennsylvania. And basically Lake Yucca grapes for the New York market. This is a steamship, the steamship Steuben, carrying a bunch of baskets of grapes over to the market. And I thought this was a really cool photo, and obviously someone else did too, because I sold it for $40. This just goes to show that you don't have to have the premium street scene real photo postcard to make some money on postcards. This is actually just a sandwich shop, and I had another one of this that actually sold for almost this much. It's not even a really particularly great print quality. It's kind of a not very good quality postcard. But again, there probably just aren't very many of this. If you're a collector of this area, this is something that maybe you just don't have. You're willing to pay up a little bit for it. And so I had a little bidding war there between a couple buyers, and this one went for $56, which was really surprising to me. I had another card of this same place from a different angle. It sold for, I think, $40. Here's some stuff that I got at just at an estate sale, I think for $1. There was a whole pile of stuff. This couple obviously was registered Republicans back in the 70s, and they actually, this is kind of cool, they have an invitation to go and visit Richard Nixon and Mrs. Nixon in 1968 at a rally in Cleveland. So it's kind of a local piece of interest, and some cool ephemera from the Nixon campaign and the Republican Party back in the 60s. Sold that for 15 bucks. This is one of the things that's kind of interesting. You'll notice it's got 2 bids. So someone was actually protecting their bid. It started at 15, so they put in another bid higher just in case someone outbid them. So it's one of those frustrating things sometimes as a seller where you go, oh man, I probably should have put this a little bit higher and I would have still gotten a bid, but you never really know. This is an interesting one, and again, my scanner kind of washed out the little sign there, but what this actually said was Donnie Maffitt, broker in land equities, secondhand automobiles, and merchandise, Gate, Oklahoma. So I looked up Gate, Oklahoma. Turns out Gate was actually kind of a gateway for ranch land purchases, and there were a lot of land brokers there. People were buying land out on the Great Plains, and the Maffitt family is actually still a big family out there. I found a bunch of people listed. This was actually one that my father and mother-in-law found, which was awesome. I have lots of people out there looking for cards for me, so shout out to them for finding some interesting stuff for me. They grabbed kind of a pile of cards at I think an estate sale or maybe an antique mall, and this was one of the ones that they found. So just a great photo of a car to begin with, and then this guy kind of looking like, yeah, I'm a land broker. So that one sat for a little while, but eventually sold for $40, which was a nice find. The gem, the piece de resistance. I was absolutely shocked by this. I looked this up, and previously this same kind of thing had sold for about 100 to 125. So I think that's what I listed it at. I think I listed it at 100 and wasn't paying attention when the auction was ending, and all of a sudden I get this notification on my phone and I'm just shocked at how much it sold for, but obviously super excited. 1958 Pan Am Airlines System timetable. So this is kind of neat. It has all the different times when the plane flies, the schedule. This actually came out of that same estate sale lot, and I paid, I think, $75 for this giant pile of ephemera, and this was one of the things I got. So just goes to show you, sometimes you're going to strike out, but sometimes you get really lucky and find something very valuable that other people just don't know much about. And so keep an eye out for that Pan Am stuff. It's very collectible. Anything by Pan Am is something that usually people are looking for. So there you go. Great couple of weeks. I will be posting some more. I also have some interesting travel adventures coming up here pretty soon that I'll tell you guys more about. But I'm going to be traveling across the nation and going on some adventures, and I'll keep you posted. Thanks for watching, and please like and subscribe so I can continue to make more of these videos. Have a good one, everybody.